All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Gateway Center here in College Park, Georgia, as we have just finished the game between Texas Southern and Alabama State, another barn burner, getting it in, going down, and look like those running horses out there and slowed the bigs down just enough to get it taken care of. Of course, on screen you have Mr. A.D. Drew and the dean himself, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill. That guy sitting in the middle, former athletic director at Edward Waters College at the time, Mr. Stan Cromartie. How you doing there, sir?
I'm fine, and you? How you guys doing?
Doing all right, doing all right. We let the guys talk to you. Talk to us a little bit about something that you got coming up that the HBCU world might be interested in hearing about.
Well, again, thank you guys for having me on.
It's a pleasure.
I tell you, if you guys are very familiar with the TBT, the basketball tournament, it's a tournament that has 64 teams, alumni teams, that play in the summertime.
Right.
And the prize is for $1.5 million. So my son, HBCU great Dominique Rogers Cromartie, who played towards the NFL and played at Tennessee State, puts a team in that 64 team every year.
Oh, okay.
And so here it is for 10 years. We said, I said, man, I would love to do this HBCU. Well, the horse is out of the stable and he's running. This is going to be the first year that we have the inaugural HBCU TBT in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
Our concept is going to be a little different than the TBT. We don't have $1.5 million. What are we going to do? We're going to have 16 teams, inviting 16 HBCU teams, alumni teams, to come and play for a grand prize of $50,000. 25 will go to the players, and then 25 will go back to the institution basketball program that they're playing for. And so it's a way that,
that's huge.
Yes, my son and I are both HBCU graduates. Way to give back to the HBCUs, because I know how it is as a former athletic director at HBCUs, having alums give back. But the biggest ticket too, they win our tournament. I partnered with TBT. They would get an automatic bid to play in the TBT for $1.5 million.
Exactly. I really like the concepts that you put there, but I don't want to spoil it. You gave some love to your son in terms of Tennessee State, in terms of him being an alumni there. Where you said you went to HBCUs yourself.
I finished at Edward Waters.
All right, good.
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to make sure that you didn't get in trouble with your
absolutely.
Obviously, you served them as the athletic director, as we did with the intro. But huge in terms of being able to make some connections and also tell a little bit about the history. The fact that your son has supported HBCU programs getting in there, but now you have one to make sure they can get an automatic bid. And you got a dual purpose partnership, as I understood that you just talked about, is that you can have teams that play their way into it with an automatic bid.
Yes, sir.
And those same alumni get to service their institution because they're making some change themselves in terms of making for the time and efforts of putting in this, but they also get to send part of that money back to their institution. That is significant because it touches so many different ways. What were the thought processes of coming up with this idea of how to put all the working pieces together?
I will tell you, by my son, each year he puts a team in the TBT.
Okay.
And it's 64 teams.
Correct.
And it's 8 regions. And I coach the team. And so I said, man.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I said, Dominique, I said, man, I would like to do this HBCU. And he said, Dad, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so that's what he did. My background is coaching college basketball. I coached college basketball for over 30 years. I was the head coach at Edward Waters. And I went on to Bethune-Cookman as a top assistant. I had a stint at South Carolina State as well.
I remember them years.
Yeah.
I remember years. Now you kind of connecting and coming back. It makes sense to me now with that. So, again, talk to us about how do they get involved? Who do they contact to make sure they put their team together? How does that go?
Please, we're only taking 16 teams.
Okay.
So we saying the first 16 teams that sign up, and you go to HBCU Welcome Home.
Okay, HBCU, www.hbcu Welcome Home.
That's our website.
Okay.
Go to the website, sign up, and we're going to take the first 16 teams.
All right.
And so
they can also contact Frank
They
Burnell.
can also contact Frank
813
528
0388. One more time, 813-528-0388. I had a radio guy that always used to tell me, say, slow down.
Yes.
Say it again to make sure they can catch it. So give it to them one more time. 813-528-0388. And the email address they can use or website they can go to.
They can go to the
give me that. I'm gonna make sure it's up on the screen too.
All right,
so
hold on. Let us finish.
Yeah.
HBCU Welcome Home tournament. They can go to the website and can sign up that way as well.
All right.
We got a website already out there.
Great information. Let's get back a little bit to this game, and then I'm going to pass it to AD to ask some more questions about this. But you were here also being entertained watching the basketball.
Absolutely.
And as a coach, so I'm going to ask you to put on your analytical hat. What did you see in this past matchup in terms of how things came out with Alabama State getting it done and dethroning Texas Southern, who's played in the finals of the last 4 years? Many people over the years had called this the Jones Invitation. He stopped that.
Well, I tell you, I mean, it was great basketball.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, and I tell you, two great coaches going at it, and it was that Alabama State. I think they at the end they prevailed. They made less of a turnovers, and I think their shot selection was great. I think down at the end, Texas Southern.
I like that. That's the coach there. Shot selection.
Yeah, I think they took some ill-advised shots at the end that kind of hurt him, and then almost Alabama State almost gave it away by not making free throws. Yeah, and I was like, wow, man, they
give him a chance.
Give him a chance. But in the end, I mean, it's been a great tournament. I hadn't been to a SWAC or MEAC tournament in forever, and it's just to see the talent of level here. So that's why I wanted to come, so we can I can support this, but also support the HBCU event that's coming up.
Good. Go ahead.
All right, Dr. Cavill, as he does, always asks the high-level questions when he gets on here. I'm supposed to ask. I'm supposed to come from the coach's perspective.
Okay.
Number one, where the tournament at?
Tournament's going to be in Orlando, Florida, May the 22nd through the 25th. We have Memorial Day weekend. Okay. We have two locations with the championship game at another location. We got a twist in it. Since everybody said, what about the girls? Well, on Sunday, there's only one game. So we're going to play on Sunday. We're going to have Florida A&M University girls alumni playing against Bethune-Cookman girls alumni before the championship game. So we're going to bring the girls in, and we're going to have a great time.
All right.
And you never know where that jumps off and starts going after that.
Absolutely.
Right. And, of course, Coach, is this winner take all just like TBT? You said $50,000 prize. Is it just one $50,000 pot, winner take all? Yeah,
winner take all. $50,000 prize, but like I say, 25 goes to the players,
right?
And then 25 goes to the institution athletic department for basketball. For the
that's huge, especially in a time with NIL, because they'll be able to use that multiple ways.
Yeah. And see now, I yesterday when I talked to AD Robinson up here, we were sitting up. We calculate there are 6 former basketball coaches who are athletic directors in the SWAC. So
basketball players,
former basketball players who are
currently serving as AD.
Yep. Now, y'all need to put y'all hats on. Y'all want this money come back to y'all. Y'all know y'all basketball. Y'all play basketball. Go ahead, call your teammates, call your team, and those people who came behind you. You want to make some money for your institution? Get this, let's be smart about it, athletic directors. And I know there's plenty of them like that. Because I'm gonna see if I can get that Morehouse team together for you.
I met a guy from Morehouse yesterday, and he said he's gonna try to get a team together.
Oh yeah, I've been in touch with the alumni. I'm over at Morehouse now. Our athletic director is the all-time leading scorer at Morehouse, AD Harold Ellis. So he's in touch with a lot of the Morehouse alumni. So
Well, we like I said, we welcome the whole thing. This year I can only take 16 teams, and so the first 16 that sign up. We're ready to
get it going.
Yes, sir.
It's a big opportunity. With that, we'll take our first break. We'll come back on to the side. Again, we're talking about HBCU Welcome Home Alumni Basketball Tournament. It's put together by Stan Cromartie. Again, the dates of that is May 22nd to 25th. That is in Orlando, Florida. Obviously, there's an entry fee of $2,500. Only taking the first 16 teams. The big thing about this, again, is the fact that there is a $50K prize, but with that $50K breakdown, each player gets half, and then a portion of that other part goes back to the institution of the team that wins. So big time in terms of how that looks like. So if you have a team out there, some of y'all still playing your rec league, keeping up with your teammates, it's time to put that together and take it to the next level. One, that you have a chance to be a part of the TBT, but first you got to go through the HBCU Welcome Home Alumni Basketball Tournament in Orlando, Florida. With that, thank you, Stan. We're going to take our next break. Appreciate your time. Much success.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, bro.
Good stuff.
Clear.
Good job. Oh,
All right, Miss Angela, we ready. Miss Angela, we ready, lady.
You know, I realize that's SWAC baseball championship weekend.
Oh, yes.
Now you need any help working this. Hey, now if you need any help working it with programming and logistics, holler at me. No, I ain't talking about that. You know, I do all the I do everything for Morehouse when it comes to all that. So I got you, bro.
Crow. Give me the website again. What's the website? I didn't see it on the flyer. Okay, let me see. What else is going to be?
All right. This is Dr. Cavill with AD. We're here in Atlanta at the SWAC Basketball Championship. This is part of Game Time. And I have none other than Angela Suggs. She is the Vice President and Director of Athletics at Florida A&M University. Better known for many as FAMU. Those snakes will get it into you. Rattlers, baby. Rattlers. They will strike. I knew it was coming, so let me get it out now.
Absolutely.
It is a pleasure to have you on the show and visit with you again. Want to talk a little bit about what's going on at FAMU in terms of athletics.
Sure.
The last thing we saw was the announcements of the ticket sales. Getting ready for some football as you kind of close out basketball and get into baseball, softball, and the outdoor seasons of track and field. But with that being said, let's talk a little bit about how things have gone thus far.
Sure. Things have been great. Closed out the fall very strong.
Yeah.
On the field and off.
You did.
Academically, finished out 3.03 as a department for our student athletes. Dug into looking at where the disciplines are. Found out we had 101 student athletes that are STEM majors in that 3.03. And so definitely student athletes that are carrying the load, literally and figuratively, right, in terms of student success, both on and off the field. Our volleyball team, of course, coming out of there with their third SWAC championship. And so that was great in the fall. And then we came into the spring and indoor, our women, you know, they fell just a little short, but still fighting.
They were right there.
in that way. And we will continue to do that. And spring sports have opened up very strong. Got a little weather going on in Tallahassee, but baseball will start conference play this weekend. Softball dealt with a little weather last week, had to move some things around. But head coach Brittany Beal got her first conference series against Alabama State. And so that was an interesting situation, but super proud of those young ladies, as well as Coach Beal coming in as her first year, getting her first conference win. So, yeah.
Congratulations on that. Folks always seem to want to know a little bit about football in terms of tickets, how to get those. And we'd be remiss if we didn't help you put that information out there.
Sure.
Before we give them that particular information, can you go through the maturation of what was the thought process to change things up a little bit in terms of the new package that you're putting together?
So things are changing for all of us
fair.
in the landscape of Division I athletics, and we're going to have to do things a little bit differently with the expectations that are going to come once we get past April 7th and we
That's the
see
magic date.
yes, and then preparing for July 1 and what this new space and this new definition of success and strategy towards success will mean for us. So in order to do that, we've all got to depend on data, right? And while packages are great, I'm kind of like a process person, right? I look at the logistics. I take a look at what is our capacity to be able to steward and manage the success of a relationship. Because it's not just that we want people to invest, but we want them to renew each and every time. We've got to have the staff to be able to service and provide that service. And so having enough people to answer the phones and sell. So some people are answering phones, some people are selling, some people are making outbound calls. Correct. Because one of the things that by peeling it back and dialing out, the data, if you will, now we can tell exactly who bought seats at what purchase price in each of the sections. As we go into arenas that have premium seating and luxury seating, we can see how many of our fans are actually purchasing those and making that a choice for their game day experience. How many people want loge boxes? How many people are looking at traditional suites as well? So that even in that day that we look forward to either doing a major renovation to brag or looking at a new stadium, we can't start then to get the data or to be able to gauge the appetite for what our fans are willing to invest in. So that's really the start of it, right? But then taking this year to speak with our fan base, letting them know, expanding the message about what it means in this new day and time. Removal of scholarship caps and moving to roster limits. The ability to look at fair market value as it relates to our student athletes, right? And how we participate in this landscape as a voluntary member at the Division I level.
Serving as the dean of the college education at Texas Southern University, but my emphasis is in sports studies, sport management.
Yes.
So as a professor of that is music to my ears. The analytics, the tacticality that you're going with, the purpose of understanding, yes, we need to get things done. We need to sell product. We need to sell our services, but understanding the decisions that we go in to make that is really intentional. A lot of things you talked about, and you said the magic date in terms of the House proposed settlement that we believe that it's going to go through in terms of the judge. But you're right. So you're planning, but at the same time, you're waiting to the finalization. And so for those that heard that date and heard the fact that you talked about changing landscape of scholarship versus rosters limits, many of our fans have heard the term, but that's specifically what you're speaking to when you're talking about understanding this changing landscape.
Absolutely.
And the purpose need to go beyond of how you take the steps next with that.
Right.
So I really appreciate that. So I wanted to make sure that we connected on that. But again, if you go a little further and talk about your daily process of getting that information, what is that like? And to some degree, why in this day and time is that more important than over? Obviously, your history in the back at professional levels, working through Florida A&M University as well, has given you the experience to understand that. But now you went out, got that experience, and you're coming back and bringing it home. Tell us why that is important and how that is not only just FAMU, but also connected to where the SWAC needs to do your partner in terms of your conference affiliation.
Certainly. And at our institutions where we make lemonade out of lemons every day, where we find a way to get it done, oftentimes because we are carrying so many balls, right? And we are moving so much, we sometimes may not have the time to dig into all the details.
You're right.
Because we're just trying to put dinner on the table.
That's right.
To make it a 3 or 5 course meal, sometimes it's not that. Well, in this day and time that we're in right now, we have got to do that to be successful.
Okay.
We've got to look at creative revenue opportunities, and it's got to come from more than ticket sales. It's got to come from more than sponsorships. And when we say, "Oh, just go get some sponsors," or "Oh, go and do this," well,
go write a grant for it.
right. We've got to have someone that's going to be able to carry out those fulfillment elements, and looking at how we're going to manage the photos that need to be taken, the report that needs to be put together. A grant is a full-time job as it relates to the paperwork alone.
I know. That's why I said that.
The grant writers for a reason.
Absolutely.
And then you got to manage the grant once you actually do get the
Which is
funds.
probably
For
even
sure,
more
for
difficult
sure.
than getting it. In the
Exactly.
first place.
Yes. And so those are some of the things that we're really, the technology element of it. There are resources out there that are the fellow, I'll call them, institutions at the mid-major level are using. There are elements of Ticketmaster that we can tap into from a data
provide
and
you that
data
data
collection,
yeah.
or even that customer service relationship portal, or customer service management portal, the CSMs and the CSRs, that are out there. And so we have it. We've just got to utilize all of that. And while riding tradition and carrying tradition,
Good point.
we've got to modernize our approach in terms of
I'm gonna let
moving
AD
at a
jump in here.
different pace.
I need to clip that, and I need to memorize that, so when I go back to work at Morehouse next week,
That's
I
right.
can regurgitate everything that you said, because number one, I hear the SBI coming out here. Number two, that is some of the things that I've been trying to
You have to implement
over at Morehouse since I've been there.
Right.
So
shout out to the College of Arts and Sciences. So it's, while I am a business econ major, and that is in SBI now,
yes,
back in the 80s,
back
it
when we
was.
was back when we was there.
Tell them a little bit.
I got a lot of SBI friends. However, let me shout out the College of
Arts and Sciences, Tucker Hall, business. That's right. That was holla. We gonna leave
That's right. We had our own building.
Reggie
Y'all did.
Mitchell.
A little old school coming in there. I see you. Let them know.
And Dr. Kavir, there was really a soft rivalry between the business econ majors and us in SBI.
And Doc, the reason that was is because those folks that were in business econ were actually a lot cooler and did all the same stuff.
I hear you. I've seen that before, because economics is always intriguing, because it does float oftentimes at many institutions across the country, particularly HBCUs, between those arts, liberal science, collabs, and some people would say it in business and others. In fact, we're just making that change. And since my tenure at Texas Southern University, I done seen it change 3 times. It goes back and forth.
Yeah. Let's get back to the subject at hand. This is basketball season, AD Subs. And one thing that you did that I thought was unique, which I'm telling you up front, I am going to steal. The imitation is the best form of flattery. Was the tables and what do you call it? The Raptors courtside club at Lawson. I haven't been back to Lawson since you've implemented, but I saw the pictures of it. First of all, where did that come from? And number two, what has been the feedback on it since you've implemented it?
Everyone seems to like it. That's there. Sports and entertainment. Where I've been the last 7.5 years, every event that we've done has to marry sports with entertainment. We want everyone to be able to come and have a good time. You may not be a fan of this particular sport, but it's the experience. Sometimes we go to the movies with our family members just because they want to go to the movies. We don't know what the name of the movie is by the time we leave. We don't know it, but it's the experience, and you know what you're going to get when you get there. And that's what we want. when we started the North End Zone Club, as a peel off, we had a President's Club that was invitation only, but when we expanded it in football to do the North End Zone Club during my first go round at
I
FAMU.
experienced that during homecoming with Texas Southern. Went down there. I was like, oh, this nice.
And so in the Lawson Center, when I was there before, we did it once or twice,
It was just
but
special
not
occasions.
to this. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so we did it for our conference season this year.
Wow.
Laid it out, and it seemed to take off. And so we're looking at that. We're also looking at other opportunities on our concourse level that we're going to introduce next year. But again, we want it to be exciting in our arena. And the energy this year was amazing. We made history this year with Coach Patrick Crary in terms of getting that first SWAC win at tournament. First of all, coming to tournament. It's been a minute since we've been here. And to have us come back into the tournament in Atlanta, where Rattlers reign supreme.
I've heard that many times.
It was definitely, we want to thank the fans for coming out this week. And next year, you know, we're already scoping out which one of these hotels we're going to take over. And because we plan to be here for the long haul.
Deep into the tournament. I like that mindset.
Let's
talk a little bit more about the spring sports since they're right upon us. And I know there's a lot of excitement and movement. New coach in softball, as you alluded to, baseball that has won a championship in the conference is getting things going. And then outdoor track and field that had a great run in terms of what they did indoor-wise.
Yes.
Talk a little about your expectations, how people can support that, and what does that look like?
So the expectation is always 14 championships. So every time we come out the gate, the goal is to hoist the trophy at the end. Like I tell the team all the time, and
set the standard.
You know, I kind of talk noise to my friends. If they giving a prize, we want it.
We want it.
Everything from shooting marbles to
dominoes, cards.
And so with this, we're even taking a look at our program because we're in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. We've got to figure out the formula so that we win the Commissioner's Cup as well. And so what does that mean? What are those elements? What are the supports that we need to sponsor? What, you know, how do we get there? Speaking of track and field, it's just like the math and track and field, and you figure out how many people you need to put in each event so that the team wins the championship.
Quietly are important.
And
a lot of people focus on the sprints, and they're excited, and we love to see those win the championship. But if you want to
that
get
mile
the
and
points,
that 2 mile,
you need to make sure that you have those hills and mile relays type runs. So you're absolutely right.
That's right.
Understanding that formula is key.
So as a program, what's our depth chart, right?
Yeah.
What are we doing in terms of setting ourselves up for success across the board? Because that's what these men and women that choose Florida A&M deserve from us, both as a staff as well as stakeholders and as a fan base.
Very well said. Last thing I have, because I know your time is very valuable and I appreciate you giving it to us. Is there anything that didn't necessarily ask you that you want to get out that is important for you to share with your
and so we want Rattler Nation, and of course we definitely are in this together, HBCUs, mid-majors across the landscape of this in terms of looking at how we succeed in this new space. None of us have ever done this before.
Correct.
The A4s and A5s have not done this before either. So this is new for everyone. And so with the fan base, again, there are going to be some changes. There are going to be some new things, but it's new. It's the same way that we're sitting here on a streaming show now.
Mm-hmm.
And once upon a time, we didn't have this opportunity.
Right.
We've got to move across the board in being able to be successful. We can't win today's game with yesterday's game pieces. We got to get the pieces out of. We can't
be successful without it.
We can't win new Monopoly that's got the little swipe thing with the Monopoly money that came from the original board. The two don't go together. So how is it that we succeed? So we want, and I think that I can speak on behalf of all fans in terms of all HBCUs and as it relates to all programs. What we're looking for is for you to come with us, right? come with us as we all move together into the lane of success where we are now.
Yeah, I did have one question I wanted to get out coming out the door. Obviously, we know from the federal and state side, there have been a lot of changes that have gone on with how we've been funded for whatever reason. What kind of challenges have those been for athletics in your particular case? Because some things that we've been getting funding from the Department of Education and everything on an institutional level,
Right.
we there are questions about whether we're going to still get those type of funds. But how does it affect you and the decisions that you have to make for 25 and 26 and going forward?
Well, for the past more than 120 years in the state of Florida, there are no taxpayer dollars that go into athletic departments of the public institutions in Florida. We're all self-sustained. That's the model that has existed in Florida, again, for more than 120 years, that athletics has been there. And so with that, what we've got to do is just continue to look at how we win at the strategies that are placed before us. How do we win for our student athletes? How then do we raise the resources? How then do we participate in the allowable space while also paying attention to what the changes are and how we're going to win at that? For people that play video games and, those kinds of things, when you see, because not only are you seeing the person that's coming at you, but you've got to see what's out there as well. And those are the things. And so for us as a Florida institution, us having been self-sustaining, which has been a challenge, but it's a challenge for everyone. What we've got to do again is look at those creative ways for resources, but also looking internally. Internally, what are some opportunities that we have for relief and resources within the different divisions and departments on campus? What we came back into the mix saying is that it's not just the athletics department. It's the Florida A&M University athletics department. Think for a minute, if you will, if we didn't have football and we were trying to start football, we would not go to the NCAA and say, oh, a department across campus wants to bring football. We would say that Florida A&M University wants to sponsor football at the Division level, 1 level. And in doing so, all of these people are going to support its success.
Correct.
So we've got to reaffirm that commitment and making sure that all of our teams, all 14 of them, our men and women's basketball team, our football team, that when we win these championships or we show ourselves in success, our Olympic sports, the Olympics in 2028 are in the United States of America in LA. We say that we sponsor Olympic sports. Do you know what that means to me? That means to me that we need to have athletes in LA.
That's right.
In 28.
Yep.
So we need to build the board now so that in 28, we're bragging about how many student athletes we sent there.
I like that. I said last question, but because of that response, and I love having these meaningful conversations about the business. Obviously we can talk sports,
right?
And that's important in terms of fan base, but a lot of them want to even have more information on the business side of things.
Right.
So as we get into it. So as we look at and we'll talk about models and being strategic and being innovative in that process, and not to say that this is the direction that will work for FAMU, but in correlation and maybe some other ideas, you might not be able to share specifically what they are.
Sure.
But for example, Texas Southern University, now the band, Ocean of Soul,
right?
The cheerleaders,
yes,
and as well as the dance teams report to VP. Dr. Kevin Granger is your colleague,
Yes.
What are your thoughts in terms of how innovative you have to be in this new framework?
Sure.
All those different ways that you have to look at it, because a lot of people want the band to travel,
right?
But they have a different framework. They have a different group that they answer to.
Absolutely.
So you may work with them in partnership to say, hey, we need you at this game. We need you to consider this. Home games, obviously, without question.
Sure.
But in terms of road games and understanding those dynamics, how do you fit those pieces of the puzzle together, I should say?
Right.
about innovative strategies, whether it's something like that or beyond that,
Sure.
where you're talking about looking at the collective of the institution of saying,
Right.
how can we do things differently, not just to do it differently, but
Yeah.
because it allow us to be more productive and get the things done that we need to get done to be successful
Sure.
in this current framework or beyond.
Sure. I love that question.
Thank you.
Because it brings two worlds that I mentioned before, sports and entertainment, together. For me, we say we have 14 sports that are NCAA Division I sponsored, but we really have 16 sports. And I don't mean that just from an athletic ability perspective or the physicality that comes from cheer and band
That's right.
and what goes into that. That's not what I mean. What I mean is,
Competition.
because that matters as well. But also, where I've been the last 8 years or so, when we produce the major events that have come into the state of Florida, we don't say that. I mean, all of it goes together. Pre-game show, halftime show, timeout entertainment, all of that is a part of the budget.
Is sure. Yeah.
The budget is, what does it cost to produce a Super Bowl? What does it cost to produce an All-Star game? What does it cost to produce a CFP National Championship? We don't, separate out
from top to bottom.
When
what
we
does it
talk
cost?
about economic impact, economic development, when we talk about the vendors, and when we talk about the companies that are able to come in and participate from a company success standpoint, it's for the entire event. And that's where I think there's opportunity for us to move forward in our thinking and our planning and our programming, that we are programming a whole event. And to say that elements of that event are someone else's responsibility, or to say that, oh, well, we don't know how it's going to happen, that only holds a negative space for us. Yeah, because when the fans come to Bragg Memorial Stadium or come wherever it is that we are, the experience that we produce, we know for Florida A&M includes our band and cheer, our mascots. It includes that. So I feel a responsibility to package an approach that has the total event in mind.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons in the NCAA tournament that the pep band is there. It's one of the reasons now that you see in these tournament, SWAC basketball tournament, that the bands and cheerleaders are partnering with the institution to come. So great point there, and wanted to make sure that we got a chance to really provide a vision for all of this, specifically for FAMU. So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I just don't want to hog it all up, but that great information is so much. Appreciate you. We have Angela Suggs here, Vice President and Director of Athletics at Florida A&M University, FAMU. As you know, those Rattlers will
strike, and strike again.
We'll be right back after this break. Set it up.
Thank you. So y'all gotta get something for the ladies. Y'all done let the little wig fly back.
Game Time Show. AD Drew here along with Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, Roy on the ones and twos handling the production. So, Dr. Cavill, we are at the official hump of the tournament, halfway through this 5-day event, midway through day 3. So, the question of the day, Dr. Cavill, both men and women, is your bracket busted?
Yes, my bracket is busted, both on the men's and women's side.
Yes.
I was on the show Monday. I was talking chalk for the women, and that hasn't hold true. Thankfully, I do play with the MEAC as well, and that's worked out so far.
Yeah.
But in terms of the SWAC, a little bit of trouble there.
Yeah.
I think Alabama A&M to go all the way.
Yes.
And it opens it up now for other folks. That's one why I'll be frank with you. I certainly had Southern going all the way to a championship game. That was done on game 1. So it's wide open. It's going to be interesting to see how things close out, which gets you to this last game with Texas Southern. As we've seen on many occasions, they are used to playing in the championship game, if anything else, over the last 4 years. This will be the first time in 5 years that will not be the case. So that's interesting in terms of that. how things will move forward.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinating there. Credit to Alabama State, 5 seed, 4 seed. You know it's pretty close, and they actually had the same record
Right.
at the end of the season.
Tiebreaker.
Because of the tiebreaker is why Texas Southern was seeded 4. But Alabama State really got started early, and I think they were able to hold on to the furious rushes that Texas Southern did. One, they closed it at half with a nice rush. They got a big basket from Alabama State to kind of put a little room there, but you saw a little momentum going to Texas Southern. Then about halfway through the second half, Texas Southern surged and tied the game.
Yes.
And then you got an immediate response from Alabama State. The Hornets really got good. Then I was like, there's going to be at least one more push from Texas Southern. And they would stand it. And they did, where they got it down to 1 point, essentially. At that point, and then Alabama State responded. They responded big with some made baskets, good defensive stops. And so they were able to seal the deal, hold it out. And Alabama State does what you want to do at this time of the year. By any means necessary, you want to survive and advance.
Yeah.
And they are on to the next round, the semifinals. They'll play tomorrow, and they're looking forward to see that matchup. So it's fascinating to see. And credit to Alabama State about being able to get it done.
Yeah. You said you had with Chalk Dr. Cavill. That's why in the classroom now, everybody used to drive race boards now. So, because Chalk doesn't work anymore, Dr. Cavill.
I appreciate that. I needed that, too, to support that. But let's talk about some of the key players in this game.
Go
ahead.
I was going to make a couple comments, then we can get back to that.
All right.
For me, with my bracket, we had questions about inviting the number 9 and the number 10 team to this tournament. And day one, at least on the women's side, while the men went chalk, the women, both number 9 and number 10, were able to get the W's.
Yep.
And then you see number 1 on the men's side, where we just had to wait a day, but they should shake up on the men's side because Southern went down. I mean, all the high seeds seem like they're going home early in this tournament, Dr. Cavill. So, but this is why they call it March Madness. You talk about the marathon, you talk about the sprint. You know what it looks like you need, Dr. Cavill? You need a middle distance runner to win this race. That's what it looks like we need right now.
That's correct. And there's so many things in sports that it's a challenge to really understand the difference between a regular season and a tournament. And championships can be won by teams, coaches, special players. But the consistent championships are won by organizations.
Yes.
And that's from the board to the president down to the athletic director, VP of athletics, as we just had Angela Suggs on board to talk about it. Those things are significant. So that's why I always tell folks to understand that when you look at that, why is that all come together from that perspective? But to your point, when you look at the season, you need help, right? But you can get away with a player or two either getting banged up and somebody stepping up. That's a little different in the sprint when you're talking about the tournament.
That's
you need
cool
everybody. Yeah,
That's
you
cool
don't have the lows in a game that you can have in a season because every point is precious. Every possession is important. That's what seniors say to their underclassmen. That's what the coaches, assistant coaches tell to the players, that you have to win each of these possessions. They say that all season, but teams can get away with not doing it. That's not the case when it gets in the tournament. So that's why it's so different that you have to play at such a high level for at least 3 games, some cases 4 games, to be able to hold that trophy. In one moment throughout the span could either say you're going home early for the tournament or ultimately, even if you last, that you don't get the chance to cut down the net. So that's why the magic of March is just that. It's March Madness, and we call it that for a reason.
Exactly.
In terms of that. So the key players in this, I think, in a lot of ways was obviously Madlock, which I said going into it, the coach's son. He always plays solid. He had a couple of tough missed free throws late that allowed Texas Southern, but throughout the game, he had big shots, mid ranges, shot the three well, went to the basket, so he kept him off balance. And then his partner, Hines, with 15 points in terms of what he was doing was big. CJ Hines, the other point guard. So they really controlled the game. And what Texas Southern can also do is throw a lot of big size at you from the forwards that can also play guards and multiple guards. So they did that. And so I thought that. But the biggest punch was Singleton coming off the bench with 10 points. It was key throughout that game. Micah Simpson was huge in terms of what he was able to do. So I wanted to give him a special shout out. In terms of Texas Southern, Hayes had one of his better games all season, and he came up big. You could tell as a senior, he wanted to do everything he could. He had some big threes that put Texas Southern back in the game and really gave him some momentum to try to do it. He gave you 24. He had McClain, the guard, senior guard, 5'10", small in stature, but he came to play, and he had some big buckets, and he gave him 15. And that was even the reason that they could stay in there. Off the bench, though, Texas Southern got 14 points from Wessinger, Jalen, that I thought was big. Granger, he was only had 2 points, and he's a defensive stopper. But when he's able to give you a little more offensively, that's when Texas Southern is really at their best. And so that's what was interesting in terms of this matchup. And credit to Alabama State, knowing that they had to play a full game and keep the tempo and keep the pressure on. And they started from start ultimately to the end to win this game to move to the next round.
Yeah. Going over, let's flip over to the SWAC, giving you some score. Excuse me, the BAC, giving the earlier today women's action. Copper State 57, Central 48, and Maryland Eastern Shore 74, Morgan State 67. So that's what's going on in the other HBCU conference there, Dr.
Yeah,
Kabir.
before we get set up for this matchup, the women's game that we're going to have tomorrow sets up for Grambling State and Alabama State. That game is at 2 o'clock. That is the semifinals. Those are two lower seeds that are finding themselves really hot. Whoever wins this game is going to feel really good about going into the championship game because that means they have been playing some really good basketball. Obviously, Grambling knocked off and really started things in terms of the major upsets, beating Southern, their rivalry, but this is after Grambling made a run there. And then you have Alabama State that just knocked off 4 seed Texas Southern. So it's going to be interesting. Jackson State is already sitting with their feet up. They're waiting to see who they'll play tonight. It's that matchup between Bethune-Cookman. So that's going to be fascinating with Alcorn State and Bethune-Cookman trying to put themselves in the semifinals, and we'll see who those 4 teams are. So a lot of stuff going on there. In terms of the MEAC, as you just alluded to, since we're talking about the men, those matchups, we have Norfolk State that is punched their ticket to the semifinals, and then you have South Carolina State. That's the number 1 and 2 seeds, so no upsets there. Things are going down this evening. You have Morgan State and Howard. That 4-5 matchup will be interesting. And then you have North Carolina Central, Delaware State. So I'm fascinated to kind of see how things go up, see our semifinal matchups in that way. On the women's side, it's going to be interesting before you give some updates from the Coastal, which I think is going to be important to see what's going on there. I did want to do the same for the women in terms of the SWAC. Obviously, we had the game earlier today, which means Texas Southern as the higher seed. They're moving in 16 and 14. They'll be going up against Alcorn State in terms of the semifinals there. So fascinating to see. With Southern already there in the semifinals, they'll be waiting for this next matchup we have now in regards to Grambling and Jackson State. And then in the MEAC, in terms of who's already punched their ticket to this finals, we'll talk about there as the bands have crunked up and started really playing against each other. Friday, you have Coppin State against Norfolk State. The juggernaut Norfolk State. I don't see who's stopping that, but Coppin State has a chance, and many people think if there's any team that can do it, even outside of Howard, it's Coppin State. and then you had the Maryland Eastern Shore and Howard upset. Before we bring and set up our guest there, I know you want to give an update with Coastal, and then we'll go to.
While we set up with our next guest, just quickly from the Coastal, Hampton went down earlier today to Monmouth by a score of 62-54, and we have to wait until tomorrow for A&T as they play at 12 noon against William and Mary. But it is my pleasure coming to the stage, as they used to say, my guy, Athletic Director, Vice President Jason Cable of the Alabama State University, man. Brother Cable, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. Just happy to be here.
I know you're happy to be here. You got a dub, man.
Yeah, we got a dub. Survive and advance is the name of the game. So a very competitive tournament. The venue, love the venue, love being in Atlanta. So we're just excited to play another day.
All right. I'm not going to have you put your AD hat on yet. I need the former basketball player, Jason Cable, right now to break down what you saw in your game and why your team was able to pull it out.
I think hitting shots early, when you're able to come into a tournament and knock down jump shots, that's a tremendous advantage. And I think that propelled us throughout the contest. Even when Texas Southern made a run, we had a cushion. I think we hit 9 threes in the first half. And so when you put that type of pressure on the team early on, fighting from behind, then you're able to play good enough defense to continue to stay in the game. They never were able to kind of fill that void that we created, hit shots early.
All right. Now I'm going to let you talk to the athletic director.
Certainly. Dr. Jason Cable, Vice President, Director of Athletics. To put your full title out, but these titles are getting fancy for the AD. I don't know who put that in play. But, I told him, get your doctorate, start getting them vice president. And some of them, listen, I appreciate you. Now, I'm going to ask you before you get in there, you gave us some analysis in terms of going back to your day, but I see you got the glasses on. Is that just, to make sure you look presidential, or is that it's time now that where the glasses are important?
Well, it's called, Dr. Cavill, it's called birthday.
Keep living, as you're telling your folks. No doubt about it. In all seriousness, appreciate the things that you're putting on together. We go back. Before we even started talking as friends, colleagues, if you allow me to use that. When a tournament was in Birmingham and a #1 team, Prairie View A&M, came in there. I was just covering the SWAC at that time, but certainly had a lot of fandom going on. I knew about the Big Bad Braves, but you were a star guard on that team. Came in and did some tournament the year before where you went it down, so you came back, even though season injuries and things like that, people didn't understand. You came in as a lower seed,
right,
and knocked off the Prairie View A&M Panthers as they were just trying to get dirty, and came in on the vans as you talked about, and we excited. We're like, man, they don't understand. There's some work out here. You put in that work. So I just want to say I haven't forgot that. I'm still trying to work on forgiving you for that, but you treat me so well since then. I think maybe we have. On a serious note, so we can get into some conversations with our fans out there, we try to take a deeper dive into the business side of things. Talk about your thoughts in terms of the decision, in terms of moving the tournament here to Atlanta, and in addition, bringing 2 more teams, and next year you actually bring all 12 teams, both men's and women. Talk about the method that you went through as the ADs, obviously working with the commissioner, to ultimately decide that this is the course of direction that you wanted to go.
Right. I think we're largely focused on the student-athlete experience. And so when you increase the numbers in the tournament, if you go from 8 to 10, now you got 4 teams that you're able to expose and experience to. And then you look at our league, it's so competitive. And so one time during the year, I think it was 7 teams. It was a game apart, right? So if you're the 7th place team, you're just 1 game out of 1st place. And so I think that realistically, you have 10 teams in, as you saw upset early in the tournament, that 10 teams have a realistic chance of winning. And so when you look at moving to Atlanta, obviously the support, the finances, the resources that College Park and the city of Atlanta put on the table is very attractive. And so you don't want to just have a tournament where you're paying for a venue, you're paying for security, you're providing this experience. You want buy-in from that city and that county to say, hey, we want you here. We recognize the economic impact, and we're willing to give back to the conference and to the membership. So I think that drove the decision to be here in Atlanta.
Let's talk about this from Montgomery's perspective, the place where you now call home in regards to what are some things that you're doing to continue to push Alabama State forward. But some of those new things that people may not have realized. I know you put it out there, and your fans there know, but maybe across the league they don't. And there might be even some new things that you want to share and break for us here on the BCSN Sports Network Game Time.
We're focused, on just exposing our brand and just highlighting our image. We added women's flag football. We were the first Division I program to add
Congratulations.
Women's flag football. We played the first flag football game in the state of Alabama a couple of weeks ago against Huntington College, so we're really excited about that. And then we want to focus on the return on investment. And we're talking about the student-athlete experience from that standpoint, right? So we got NIL. Everybody knows it's there. But what are we doing to make sure our student-athletes are getting a return on their investment to us? We always talk about what we do for them, but we got to make sure that they're getting a return on their investment. And I think that when you can provide that experience, coupled with, you've got to be involved in the NIL space, but then you can have a better relationship with student-athletes. They stay longer, and then it's going to build better relationships as they transition through the institution, matriculate towards graduation, become better alumni, and then just the continuity and sustainability of the program.
You have some of the best facilities in the conference, and I would say in the FCS, some even rival some FBS programs. Some of that you inherited, but some of that you brought to the table and certainly enhanced it with different parts that have taken it to the next level. Tell me why that's important and maybe any of those things that you share or what may be even new that you're bringing to the table. And this, for me, what I've noticed is across sports. This is not just one or two sports that you're able to do this to a further point. These are your Olympic sports. These are your main sports. Talk about that.
Well, we want to add something each year. Okay. And so, we can't do everything at one time, but over the course of a couple of years, we want all of our spaces to be upgraded. And so we've done some things in football as relates to branding. We added batting cages for softball and baseball. We added a video board for baseball, adding a video board as we speak right now for softball, replaced the video board for football stadium, video board in basketball, just to kind of enhance our experiences. And then we always look at revenue generation. And so when you have those assets, when you're talking to sponsors, you're able to sell at a higher level because you're able to expose them in a major way, right? When you're talking about, I could put you on a video board at 5 different complexes throughout the year. That package looks a little bit different than we're just talking about football. And we want to be attractive. We want to be attractive to student athletes. When they stand on campus and they look up, we want them to know that they're at Alabama State University. So a lot of that branding is geared towards them recognizing where they are.
Good stuff. You want to follow up?
Well, you talk about some of the enhancements that you're doing to your facilities, both your revenue sports and your Olympic sports. But I just want you to talk about the sports, especially the Olympic sports. We're here at the basketball tournament, but you got another 300 or so student athletes on campus who don't get as much shine as football and basketball get. So let's talk about what's going on with the Olympic sports.
Yeah, and I almost forgot. We just opened the golf facility. So we have
that's the one that you gave me some sneak peeks at.
So we have a state-of-the-art golf facility. We have 3 PJ professionals. There's our golf coaches headed up by Coach Quincy Hurd. And so we just want to enhance the experience for all student athletes. So we don't look at it as revenue generating versus non-revenue generating. Everybody should receive a return on their investment. And so our sports, when you see just recently we had an opportunity to play Missouri down in Florida. Our baseball team knocked off the University of Missouri softball team, knocked off UConn. And so we want to compete not only in the conference, but we want to compete at a regional and national level as well.
Last thing before I get out of here, there was an athletic director. I'm not going to call him by name, but they said they coming after the Commissioner's Cup. What you say about that, man?
I think they should. It's a very competitive league. And so we want it, but it's not easy. There's great programs in this league, and the teams are getting better. And so it's competitive, and so they should want to come after the Commissioner's Cup, and we want to hold on to it.
Exactly.
And so that's what competition is all about.
Yeah, competition between the teams and coaches. Also, competition between the ADs, VPs of athletics, and those directors of athletics in terms of that. As we start to get ready to close up, anything that you want to share that we didn't ask you that you would like to get out to the masses?
No, I think you asked me all the highlighted questions, but I'm just excited to be here. I'm going into my 4th year at Alabama State University.
It's been that long?
Yes, it's been that long.
Wow.
So I tell people now I start putting pictures on the wall. Feel really good about it. But we got
Feel
great
part of the family for real.
Yes, sir. And they welcome me in, man. We got great leadership. And Dr. Quinn T. Ross, really the 15th president. I can't say enough about his leadership. So we're just moving forward with an institution where history is made.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Are we going to see you? We were actually we were going to be seeing you guys in a couple of weeks for the spring game. I'm assuming that's something you all want us to do. You know, all y'all got to do is call and say it, and we'll be there.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make it this year. You know, that deanship, as you talked about and told me it'd be a little different. It's different. It likes your time. It likes your time. They're gonna make sure they get it out of it. But with that being said, we're gonna close it up. Appreciate your time. You stick around. I want to give you a couple of things, talk with you afterwards. But with that being said, we're gonna close it up as we get ready for the tip-off. Things starting between this matchup between Grambling State and Jackson State. This is a rivalry that crosses borderlines. Anybody that's been part of the SWAC knows this one goes way back. In fact, these two teams, when you just talk about putting history on it, were part of the conference in the Midwestern Athletic Association before they came to the SWAC. They were together.
And
they changed to
the
the Midwestern
SIAC
Athletic Conference, also part of the SIAC when you go back there. So this rivalry goes back. In all sports, and it's always intriguing as you got state bragging rights on the line between Grambling State and Jackson State. As we see Charles Bishop over there smiling, saying, "Yeah, that's right. That's right. I taught him something. He taught me something." I say, "All right, I just read it in the book, Charles." With that being said, we're gonna go to the break. And we'll be back later to give you some updates as this game gets underway. Thank you.